There are very few monuments in Ireland that you would consider comparable to this. It's similar in scale, maybe slightly smaller than Runnery on Tara, which is the huge ceremonial enclosure. In terms of length and probably the amount of stone moved, this is a massive, massive ceremonial enclosure. The location of it is striking. There are very few locations I can think of like this, in that you have near 360-degree views around here, and you're right in the heart of a major monumental archaeological landscape. So if you look over that way, you can see Loch Crew. If you look behind me, you can see the Hill of Lloyd, which is a Bronze Age hill fort, almost certainly. If you look over that way, you can see Slieve Gullion. Slieve Gullion is the site of the highest surviving passage tomb in Ireland. So it's, again, a major ritual monument. If you go in that direction, you have the Hill of Fawn, again, which is another hill fort. You go further round again, you start to see the Dublin Mountains and the Hill of Tara, which is very clear on the horizon over that way. So it's a spectacular location, and almost certainly one that people would have been coming back to for thousands and thousands of years. Well, it's a well-known site, but it's one that's never really had a huge amount of research interest in it. It's one of 4 sites which are considered by Geoffrey Keating in the 17th century as being the foundation for corners of the Kingdom of Meath. Keating particularly talks about this as being the centre of Samhain traditions in Ireland. On Samhain Eve, so Halloween, modern Halloween, all fires in Ireland were supposed to be kindled from this site. So all fires were extinguished, a big bonfire was lit here by the priests and druids, and then all people had to come and light their fires again from this fire, the fire of Tlachtga. We've had at times 4 to 6 people with mattocks in the last week just taking out the fill of this. The people that built this wouldn't have had anything like a mattock. They'd have had maybe bits of antler. They may have fractured the rock with fire. I suspect what's happened is that they've made a start somewhere, and then they've used things like antler picks maybe to just actually prise up pieces of bedrock as they've gone around. And again, as I say, 20,000 tonnes of stone moved. It's a big human effort to construct, and presumably something that you'd want to keep in use for a number of generations as opposed to just a couple of hundred years. So this is the pit we've been calling Test Pit 2, and this is actually dug within the central portion of the monument that stands here at the moment. One of the things about this monument is that it's associated with fire. That the medieval texts would associate this very strongly with an annual fire festival. When we dug here, the top section of this particularly was quite messed around. There was a lot of disturbed archaeological material. But as we've gone further down, what we're finding is very, very intense burning. That burning may be related to things like that. It may be related to metalworking or pottery manufacture or glass manufacture, but what we can say is that this has been burned extremely hot. So if you look at this, for example, the clay on the inside of there has been really oxidized. You can see on the outside of it, it's quite dark still, so that's been an outer surface of something, but there's been a fire laid directly against that, really extremely hot fire. We really have no clue as to how old this is, because there's been activity here over the course of thousands of years. So that could be anything really from Iron Age through to late medieval, but we should be able to find out fairly straightforwardly. So this one is the one we've been calling Trench 3. It's a smaller enclosure, so it is about 40 metres in diameter. Its relationship with the bigger monument that we were just at is much harder to discern, because it's enclosed by it, but we can't really make out whether it's earlier than or later than at this stage. When we came to the second half of the ditch, so effectively this was excavated in 2 halves, so this half came out first, and we came to the second half of the ditch, and we got right down to the bottom. Right at the base there were some large flat stones, and underneath those flat stones there was the burial of a small child, probably less than a year old. There were stones that were kind of almost surrounding it, and stone placed on top of it. And also the placement of the other things around it is quite interesting. The fact that there is cattle bone clearly placed on the base of this ditch all the way through where we've excavated it. It's very like one within Runnery on Tara. There's a skeleton again of a child less than a year old placed under a large slab. And that was Iron Age, but we really don't know about the date of this, and we don't really know much more until we've actually done some more analyses on this.